Hey guys, welcome back, or welcome if you're new. My name's Katie and I'm going to be doing my first update of the Pan Those Eyeshadows project for 2021. So I'm really excited about this. I've definitely made some good progress and I expected to hit a few pans this update, but I didn't expect it to happen as fast as it did. So I am pretty stoked to show you that, and also a little bit nervous to see what I roll in for this round. So I am going to be showing you guys my color story from the first update, my pans, my uses, and then after that we'll go over to Google's random number generator and we will roll two numbers in and I'll show you what they are in my spreadsheet, and then we'll swatch it all out and see what I'm working with, and fingers crossed. And then after that I will show you some of the looks that I have made with my color story for this one. So if you are interested in watching my intro video, I will have that in the cards, and then the playlist for this project will always be linked in the description, as well as links to the project's creator, Alexi, but I did go over that in my intro. So without further ado, this is what I'm working with, and yeah, I'm not mad at it. Sorry if the lighting's not cooperating. It is midwinter here, and the sun is like trying to peek its head out, but it's February, so you know, she's doing her best, but her best is kind of half-assed, so I have a zero budget, so we're just like going with it. So sorry if that bothers you. But anyway, so this is what I'm working with. So these top three right here are from the e.l.f. Earth and Ocean palette. Number 4, you can barely see it, it's pretty light, is from the Gemini palette, and then the bottom one is from the Natasha Denona Sunrise, and then this was just me burning myself. However, the potatoes, for that burn, worth it. So let's take a look at my progress. In case you were wondering how I ended up with three shades from the same palette, I think it just mainly comes down to the fact that the Earth and Ocean has 18 shades, which is the most out of anything I own, and I do have 8 right now, so it's a fairly small collection. And then most of them have 10 shades or fewer, and then this one has 18. So I'm going to spare you the probability, but it just generally had a higher likelihood of ending up in here multiple times, although I certainly didn't expect 3 times on the first round. But I'm not entirely surprised for the multiple appearances. So to start off, I have the shade Drip Drip, which is this bold blue. And when I rolled this in, this is actually my tracker shade for this palette. I generally try to track one matte and one shimmer for a lot of palettes, just because, not to call myself out, but I do have obsessive compulsive tendencies, I guess you could say. So I try to just only track 1 or 2 just to, you know, chill about one thing in my life. So yeah, so because this was my tracker shade, I do know that prior to rolling it in, I'd used it a grand total of 4 times. If you hear my stomach growling, no you didn't. And now I have used it 10 times. So it went from looking pretty untouched to having a pretty good dip. I have also swatched it a few times just because this is not the easiest color to work with. Most of the blues on this side of the blue side of the palette are not super pigmented, which is not necessarily an issue, but I feel like if you're going to commit to a navy blue, you also have to commit to pigment. So I think part of the reason that I have made such a dent in this month is just because every time I use it, I have to go in multiple times with a brush. And yeah, it's just not the easiest shade to work with. And before I rolled two blues from this palette in, I suspected that this stained, and then I have definitely confirmed that suspicion, but it's not a big deal. It's pretty common for that color family, and especially for a more inexpensive palette. I'm not entirely surprised, although I've never actually experienced that before, so that was something new. So I have used this 14 times total and 10 times in this project, and it's been kind of a struggle to work with. For sure. It kind of pays off more of a satin on the lids. I find that it pays off a couple of shades lighter and definitely not shimmery, which was kind of disappointing, although it's not too bad if you sort of pack it all over the lid and then blend something else out like a matte in the crease. I guess just for like reference for this not being super pigmented, this shade right here is like 4 dips, so definitely not the easiest shade to work with, and I will definitely be happy to have this rolled out. I can tell based on the progress that I've made in this other shades in this palette that I think I'm probably like 5 or so uses away from hitting pan, so I should be able to roll it out this month, which I would be quite happy about just because I'm kind of getting tired of blues. But anyway, moving on. So also a blue, we have Siren, and as you can see, it's a very tiny pan, but it is a pan. And I hit that after only 3 uses. I knew I was close. I hadn't panned, this was the first pan in this palette, and I knew that I was close. It is a chunkier glitter formula, so you could kind of see, I'm pretty sure you could see like reflex from pan, but I hadn't like necessarily hit it. only 3 uses. So very happy to roll this out. I wore this a lot last semester as sort of an all over lid shade with a matte in the crease. That probably happened at least once a week. So I had a pretty massive dip going when I rolled this in, but like I said, I didn't think I was as close as I was. So I'm really happy about that. And then I also managed to hit pan on the shade Rock Bottom, which is like this cool toned bronzy color. I didn't realize how much green was in this until I tried pairing it with the blues. It almost has a slight olive undertone, which was interesting and not something that I noticed when paired with the other warm neutrals on this side of the palette. But anyway, really pretty color, definitely one of my more reach for shades in this palette. So again, had a pretty decent dip going on it. This is the different formula than these two. It's a more smooth sort of silicone-y formula, whereas these two, Saltwater and also Gold Rush right here, are more of like a chunky, so almost like crumbly shimmer texture, but this is definitely very nice and easy to work with. Pretty pigmented and just really nice and like shiny. So definitely enjoyed using that. And it just makes like a nice all over lid shade if you're in a rush. But yeah, definitely glad that I pulled that in. Also happy to see pan on it. So that took me 6 additional uses. I don't have usage data on this before I rolled it in, but I would say probably I'd used it 10 to 15 times. Like I said, one of my more reach for shades in this palette. So definitely excited to be rolling this one out as well. Next up is Luna, and so this is from the Melt Gemini palette. I'm gonna try not to blind you, but it's also like impossible for me to cover this entirely with both hands and also point to the shade, but just know that it is this far right shade right here, and it's like a nice light transition shade. Now, I didn't expect to hit pan on this, and I probably even won't see pan after 30 uses just because Melt shadows are pretty pigmented. You really don't need much, but I don't have tracking data on this one either prior to rolling it in, I don't think. Let me take a look. No. And it looks like I don't have any tracking on this palette in general, but that's not relevant to this. But I do definitely have more of a dip going on, but no pan, although I have used this 16 times, so definitely a very easy shade to incorporate. Makes a great transition shade, especially for working with the Sunrise palette, which leads me to my last shade. And so this is the last shade that I rolled into this. Oh, it might actually help if I try to open the right side of this palette. Morgan, which is this like peachy shade here. This reminds me of Cantaloupe. So it's definitely a really lovely shade. I adore this palette. I just haven't been reaching for it as much this season just because I tend to go for cooler tones during the winter. I'm very, I guess, seasonally inspired with my makeup and hair and nail choices. Not hair, my hair is this color all year round. I'm definitely very seasonally inspired with my makeup and clothes and nails, and this is no exception. So I haven't been reaching for this as much, although I think that if I'd rolled this in the spring, summer, or fall, so any other season essentially, I probably would have used this a lot more. So the fact that I only used this 6 times didn't really have anything to do with the palette as much as like the season and my inspiration. So this probably has another couple months left before I roll it out, and this was pretty much untouched. I think I'd used it like maybe 3 or 4 times when I rolled it in, so I probably used this 10 times total. And again, these are also very pigmented shadows, so I'm not surprised. It might help if I could get this centered, yeah. So there's a very slight dip, but nothing crazy, and I'm kind of glad that this gets to stay in just because I know this is a reliable shade that I enjoy using. So now that I've recapped, we're gonna go over to Google's random number generator and my spreadsheet and see what I come up with for the next round. And okay, so I have number 35 and 52. So I'm pretty sure, let's go take a look. So 35 is Meanstreak from the Melt Cheese and Parties, and 52, oh, 52 is Citrine from the Natasha Denona Sunrise. Okay, that'll be fun. So this is going to be interesting. So this is what I'm working with right now. So not the most cohesive. So Drip Drip is staying in, Luna is staying in. Then we have Meanstreak from the Melt Cheese and Parties palette, Citrine from the Natasha Denona Sunrise, and Morgan also from the Sunrise. So let's see what I'm looking at. So I am tracking Citrine on this one, and I know that I have used Citrine a grand total of like 1 time. So I think that this will probably be a 30 uses and rollout. I don't see myself hitting pan on this, but just getting some more use out of it would be nice. Although I think this is going to be hard to reach for this season, but I'm hoping that I'll be able to use it a couple times with the more warm tones in this palette, and hopefully I'll be able to get a little bit of use on it that way. And then I have the Melt Cheese and Parties. So this was my palette of the month for January, and this has definitely been pretty well loved. Again, melt shadows are very pigmented, and this palette is no exception. So the shade Meanstreak is right here, and it's a pretty dark matte, really nice and pigmented. The swatch on the back of my hand is 1 dip, so definitely a little goes a very long way with this shadow, but it does make a really, really nice eyeliner, so I'm hoping I'll be able to use it that way. And again, I don't know if I will necessarily see pan after 30 uses, but that definitely is one shade that I haven't been using as much, so I'm glad, especially this time of year when this is a palette that I would be very inclined to reach for. I'm glad to have, I guess, a little bit of a prompt, some prompting to use it. So I almost forgot, but I thought that I would just pop back in and really quickly talk about my pan percentage, because I know that that is something that people do sometimes like to see. So if that applies to you, here it is. So I retired the only palette in my collection that had pan at the beginning of January. So that dropped my pan percentage down from 6 or 7% down to 0. And then because I've hit 2 pans in this project and then 1 in my regular rolling project 10 pan, I guess I'll have it in the cards if you guys are interested. Because I have three new pans this month, that brings my pan percentage up to about 3.5 or 3.6%. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not really aiming for a specific pan percentage that I want to hit by the end of the year or anything like that. I think it's going to be very dependent on what I end up drawing into this project, as well as how my pan that palette goes. So I mean, anything between 10 and 20% I think would be nice and probably realistic, but we will totally see about that. So having said that, let's take a look at some of the looks that I came up with. So this look definitely featured Drip Drip, probably in the outer third. I think I've also got Abyss, Siren, and probably Oasis and Saltwater in this. Definitely a more standard blue look that I would create with this palette. Then one of my favorite looks, so this one was definitely Luna in the crease, and then Rock Bottom on the lid, and then Fuji Feels on the outer corner. And probably something like Desert Storm or Can't Help It, just a little bit in the crease for a little bit of extra depth and along the lower lash line. This is like a very unflattering angle, but this is when I tried to do a halo eye with Saltwater and Rock Bottom, and then it looks like I had Volatile in the crease from the Norvina palette. Luna was probably in there somewhere, and I know for a fact that Rock Bottom was the inner and outer third, and then we put Saltwater, which is the light blue shimmer in the Earth and Ocean palette, on my inner corner and the center of my eyelid. Listen, my selfie game is not great, but I'm working on it. And then, oh, this is the day that I was meeting with my honor supervisor, and well, now honor supervisor, then prospective, now for real. So this was with the sunrise. So I think this is one of the first times that I used it in this project. So Morgan on the crease, Morgan and Luna in the crease. And then I think I had Awakening, Azalea, and Laurel on my lid. And then I'm not sure how great this photo is, but this was actually one of my favorite looks with the Earth and Ocean palette this month. So I had Luna in as the transition, and then Rock Bottom and Drip Drip in the crease. And then I think there might have been a little bit of Siren to help blend the transition between the two of them. And then probably Abyss in the crease and lower lash line. That's not the greatest photo, but it did turn out really, really nicely, and I was pretty happy with that. Here's a better photo of that look, but I really enjoyed that one. And then this was a couple of days ago with the Sunrise palette. So I had Aster on the lid, which is like a purpley mauve blue duochrome, and then I had Luna as a transition, Morgan in the crease, and then I think probably Poppy on the outer third. And then so those are all the photos that I remembered to take for this round, and I think that's gonna wrap it up for this one. So if you enjoy and you want to see more of my face, I would love it if you would subscribe and join me. I aim to upload about 1 video a week, depending on my schedule and my internet connection. I'm heading into midterms right now, so this video is being filmed a little bit early. Normally I aim to have updates for this project about once a month, but this is going a little bit early. Should be up a little bit early just so that I know that I have a video that week and I'm not stressing to film while I'm trying to be prepping for midterms. I should be back to normal for March, and then April's going to depend on my final exam schedule, which I don't have yet, so we'll get there whenever we get there. I'm also experimenting with different filming locations, and I'm trying to use a mic this time, so I would love it if you would let me know if the audio quality is better or worse than my standard. So I hope you guys understand. I'm sorry about that. If you're doing any projects like this, I would love it if you would let me know down below so that I can follow along with yours as well. So yeah, having said that, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and hopefully I will catch you in the next one. Bye!